Hey, welcome back to the Infos Podcast. This is Brian.
This is Darryl.
And this is episode 286. Robin Goes BRZRKR. I can't not say it like that because of fucking Clerks.
I was about to say, what kind of accent was that?
It was what's his name's cousin, Jason Mewes' character's cousin, Olaf, in Clerks, and like he had the worst Russian accent. So anyway, yeah, this is Brian. Did I do that
And
already?
Darryl.
I didn't do that yet.
Yes, we did that already.
Did we? Man, it's such a long day. I had 8 meetings today.
That's ridiculous.
And I was double booked like 3 different times today. So, but I attended 8 separate meetings. So I'm fried. Anyway, so this week on the Infos Podcast, we have a review of Robin #1, BRZRKR #2. We're gonna put the final stamp on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then we're never talking about it again until season 2. And then we've got news bites on the Oscars, Cobra Kai season 4, Invincible news, and May the 4th news. Just kind of May the 4th controversy. Let's put it like that. So anyway, before we get started, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, give us a 5-star review on Amazon, on iTunes, and wherever. Check out our website. Check out our Patreon if you're interested. You can catch our scathing commentaries of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision if you are so inclined, or just back and do the tier to get a free shirt. So anyway, but yeah. So Darryl, the Oscars.
Yes. They happened.
All right, moving on. So Cobra Kai season 4. So so they finished. So we're recording this on the 30th of April. They finished filming on the 29th for season 4, principal photography, and they said it will be out in 2021.
Yes.
So,
But it's
yeah.
But what's awesome about it, it's just not Cobra Kai for Netflix. Netflix also has The Witcher season 2.
Yep.
And You,
which I haven't watched
season
that one
3.
yet.
Yeah, it's a show that you're actually rooting for the sociopath because
that's most shows. I typically
that's true.
root for the sociopath, but so I mean you have to have your representation. Wait, hold on. Did I say that? No, I'm kidding. But no, I mean this is exciting, and so Martin Kove had a great little thing he posted to his Instagram or whatever. Just thanking everybody for their hard work, thanking Billy Zabka and Ralph Macchio for all their hard work and being like great leaders on the set. And it's really cool. And I'm really excited to see what happens. Especially, I'm hoping Mike Barnes shows up because Mike Barnes was the best villain in all of The Karate Kid.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it in a while, but I did watch during Cobra Kai when they did the flashback, and I ended up going on YouTube and watching that actual the full clip of that fight.
Oh, their championship bout in the All Valley under 18 tournament.
Yeah.
Former champion Daniel LaRusso against karate's bad boy Mark Barnes. Yeah, I mean he's like so intense, like the look on his face, like when he's just playing Mike. It was so great, and I'd love to see him back. I want Terry Silver back, to come back, so bad. Like he was a great character as well, but yeah, I'm excited. I want to see what happens with Eagle Fang and if Johnny and Daniel can coexist as teachers and whatnot, and the whole will they won't they with Johnny and Daniel's wife. She just looks at him and she's like, "That's a real man."
Ideally, having Tori wipe the floor with Sam.
Oh yeah, and cut her face.
I just cannot stand that character, the character of Sam.
Yeah, like if Sam's vocal cords got cut, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the
world. I mean, I honestly didn't like her from day one.
From the jump, she was just a brat, right? And here's the thing: is like, I'm sure Mary Mouser is a fine person, right? She is just not good in that role. Like she's, I don't like, she's almost like too earnest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And in a way that's like so unbelievable that, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like why, like Miguel is worried about her and Robbie was into her. Like I can understand Robbie being into her because he was like maybe trying to like stake out the LaRusso mansion so he could rob it. But that name was a little on the nose too. Robbie, robber, criminal, douchebag. So and Robbie's my second least favorite character.
Absolutely.
He's completely unnecessary to the mythos.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember he was like in the last season he was out for like several episodes.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. So no, I'm kidding.
When he came back, it's like, there's that
guy who's supposed to be a badass but can't actually finish a fight without a cheap shot. And then you got Miguel, who's the one true Karate Kid. Sorry.
Absolutely.
But Miguel Diaz for life.
Yeah.
Anyway. So no, I'm just excited. I'm so happy that you finally watched Cobra Kai when it hit Netflix.
After you telling me about it for what, 2 years?
For years. And I am not immune to people having to tell me to watch things for years before I will watch it. Like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul or plenty of shows. Like I started watching Warrior on HBO Max, which was, I guess it's on Cinemax. That is a very good show. It's like Deadwood meets Kung Fu. Oh, speaking of Kung Fu, since we're in this whole Karate Kid thing, at the gym, I saw a commercial for the CW original series Kung Fu.
That looks so bad.
How is it an original series when it's just a copycat virtue
remake
of I don't get it. Like, and honestly, like it's a bad look because Bruce Lee got screwed over in that whole thing with David Carradine. Like, why bring that back up?
I don't know.
So I am excited for Cobra Kai. It's one of my favorite shows. I've watched it all the way through probably like 3 times. I actually bought the first 2 seasons because they were like $4.99 each or whatever. So, and I'll probably buy the 3rd season because I'm sure eventually I'll actually cancel Netflix. But Jupiter's Legacy comes out next week, so I'm definitely going to keep it through that.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. Anyway, so, yeah, moving on to the next topic. Speaking of things that are disappointing, Invincible got picked up for seasons 2 and 3.
Well,
at Amazon.
What did Thanos say? Reality can often be disappointing.
Yeah, they really should change the name of this show from Invincible to Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Well, it's like every time I text it to you, I put it in quotes. I don't know if you've realized I've been doing that. So,
or this show that Amazon calls Invincible.
The show that Amazon calls Invincible. Look, they got the costumes perfect. For the most part, the voices are great. I don't dig Gillian Jacobs as Eve. There's just a little too much whiny in there.
I noticed that when the first episode, I actually liked her voice, and as it's gone on, it's kind of worn on me.
And as much as I love Walton Goggins, I hate his voice coming out of Cecil's face.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his voice.
And I just like, here's the thing though, is Robert Kirkman is heavily involved in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could he decide that the masterpiece that he wrote wasn't good enough, and then they have to go and change it to whatever this is? But yeah, in Amber, they should have just named her a different character. We're gonna get into this more next week.
Yeah.
I had to force myself to watch the finale. But yeah, there's just so much, like, and like seeing people post online about how they love this and how they love the animation. The animation got worse as the season went on. So hopefully they're taking the time to like do it right, because they rushed.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because I told you, like, the first episode, I was like, oh, or well, the first three, I was like, the animation is really good. And then probably a couple weeks ago, you mentioned something about, I think it was Machine Head, when you're talking about, did you notice his arms were
Machine
like,
Head and
shorter than
Isotope both.
Yeah.
And then Mark's fingers are all of a sudden like too small for the palms of his hands that he has. It's almost like he's got these little like stubby like Skyline hot dog fingers instead of real fingers. I just ruined his hands for you. And everybody, sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, but yeah, I don't understand picking up for 2 full seasons. Like, they jetpacked through the first season, so maybe that's all they're gonna do is 3.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally at a point where he, like, the whole where Omni-Man is and where Mark is in his personal life as compared to when Omni-Man revealed who he really was. It's like, it's just a big jumbled mess. And again, they've ruined some of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
So,
and again, there's a lot of people that don't know about this property, and they're loving it, and that's great for them. And I've watched a couple reactions to it, and I told you before we started recording, I'm trying to look at it in 2 different ways, which is very difficult, especially for something you really, really love. I'm looking at it from a position of someone who knows the material.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to separate that and look at it as well as someone like, how would I like this if I didn't know about, Invincible, the comic? So,
I don't think there's any way I could possibly do that.
It's very difficult.
I mean, I've just read through it so many times, and it's one of my favorite comics, like top 3.
And I'm reading through it again now. So, that was really jarring for me, reading through it. And then when we get the first 3 episodes and I'm just looking at it like, this is not Invincible.
Well, I told you after I watched the first one, I was like, I don't think I can watch any more of this.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
So I powered through for all of you Infomites. You're welcome.
So next week will be interesting.
Myself for it.
You're gonna have to take a shower.
Yeah.
After talking about it.
No, it's gonna have to be like one of those Sally Fields and Roseweed or whatever that movie was, where she was at the nuclear plant. Rosewood. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. So let's move on to our last fun little news bite. We started it at 1313, which was that Star Wars game that never happened.
Yeah.
That's a funny little happenstance of a timestamp there. All right. So it looks like they may be just flat out ignoring the sequel trilogy. For some of the ads that they've been doing here. So they put out a big actually what this was a banner from Celebration in 2019 that they unveiled a little bit each day to finally reveal the Rise of Skywalker stuff. Not all of it, but like, there were no spoilers, but the sequel trilogy up through The Last Jedi. And so what they've done is they've just taken most of that middle section and put it in there. But the Star Wars people just can't help themselves, can they?
Can't get, what is it? They say you can't get out of your own way.
They made Luke so effeminate. Like, he's like, hey guys, I'm a Jedi. We're fabulous. It's like, it doesn't even look like Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
It's so like a weird anime, like, type of character that it looks like there. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So about this whole seemingly ignoring the sequel trilogy, I've never, this channel, what is it called? Echo Force Base or something like that?
Echo Base Network. They're great. It's a great channel. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, this was the first time I actually, because I don't even think they've ever come up in my feed, actually, watching
strange.
Star Wars videos, which is weird.
I'm a huge fan of Coach. Like, he's great.
Coach.
Yeah. And, they I forget the other guy's name now that we're talking about it. But yeah, I like watching their videos because they have a real good take on Star Wars. And Nick, sorry, yeah, Coach and Nick. And it's one of those things where, like, they try to be positive. They're not, like full on fandom menace, like some of the channels we like. But at the same time, they are they're relatively like centrist when it comes to this stuff. They tend to give things the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, they are not afraid to say this is bad. So yeah.
So yeah, looking at that poster, I thought it's very curious that they have, they have our trilogy, the one we love.
Yep.
And then they also have the Ahsoka Tano.
Yep.
They have the Bad Batch. And they had, what is her name? Asajj Ventress?
Ventress, yeah. So,
yeah.
Who was created for the Gennady Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. That character came directly out of that.
So that's like, thinking about that, putting the original trilogy stuff in there and then interspersing it with some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because the Bad Batch and yeah, but they don't even have the Mandalorian in there.
Like, I noticed that. Yeah,
but here's the thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say when this original piece of artwork was made, like the Mandalorian, was announced that week.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
That's why all these people are like, well, it's the Mandalorian. It's like, yeah, but this is like part of something that already existed. So anyway, but yeah, it's just it's very strange. There's the rumors that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving, that she's been reduced in power or whatever. And you know what? I'm not going to believe any of this until you hear that the first person from like the story group who goes after a fan gets fired.
Yeah. Yeah. We've heard this so many times over the last several months, or even longer than that, that, Kathleen Kennedy, stepping down, or Kathleen Kennedy is this or that.
Kathleen Kennedy has been tarred and feathered. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's exactly what I told you about Black Widow. Even though I saw the trailer, I got a little bit geeked. I'm not going to get really full on excited until I'm in my seat and they start showing the movie.
It's like 15 minutes of the movie, and you're like, okay, I'll get excited now.
The power goes out.
Damn it! Black Widow.
I would riot. But so yeah, that I'm on the same boat here. It's just one of those things. It could be true. It could not. I'm not even wasting my energy thinking too much about it, just because, again, we've heard this for a while now.
So yeah. So here's the thing. The sequel trilogy merchandise doesn't sell. Just doesn't. Like, for the most part. I like The Force Awakens. I really did. I think it's probably one of the better movies Jar Jar's put out. I left that movie with a lot of like hope for Star Wars. And like the Rise of Skywalker is a bad movie, not because because it was poorly conceived, but because it was rushed and you had a terrorist in the middle of the trilogy decide to throw a bomb and let it off, pretty much trying to burn the fandom down.
That's pretty very accurate right there.
So, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to refer to that person by name either anymore.
Don't give them the satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm just going to call that person the terrorist who tried to light the fire to burn Star Wars to the ground. So I'll steal your line, you douche. Anyway, yeah. So I'm not putting a ton of stock into this. The other thing is like, it's on a Tuesday this year. Like, I'm sure Hasbro's gonna put out some stuff that they want us to buy, and it's like I don't know. I mean, I just found 2 of the vintage series figures I was looking at Target today. So, or looking for, like, just randomly, which that never happens. I always have to pre-order, and these are 2 that I forgot to pre-order, and they were there. So, yay. But it's not like I'm not buying Star Wars stuff, and it's not like I don't buy every Rey figure that comes out, because I like the design of the character. And I thought Daisy really did a great job with what she was given. But I at the same time, it's like, if there's a Luke Skywalker, I buy it. If there's an R2D2, I buy it, and then another one. If there's an Ahsoka Tano, I buy it, and then another one. So yeah, I'm curious as to what they're gonna do. I have not picked up a single Bad Batch figure.
I was gonna get those, and then I decided not to.
I like them, but I don't want the Black Series ones. I'm holding out hope for the vintage
you're about
series.
Vintage, yeah. I was about to say you're.
No, I mean, I'm still doing Black Series figures. Like, they have the Anakin and Obi-Wan and Fives, and I forget who the other one is from the Tartakovsky Clone Wars coming out. So I think that's what's being released on Tuesday, actually. So those are all 6-inch figures that are in the old, like the bigger version of the old 3 3/4 Clone Wars cases, or packaging. So like I'll get all 4 of those, but it's kind of few and far between at this point, and it's really only characters I like.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just don't know what to think about.
Yeah,
what's going on with Star Wars, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, it's in a weird spot. Book of Boba Fett is still almost a year away. I mean, it's 8 months away, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm more excited for The Witcher. I'm more excited for Cobra Kai. I'm more excited for The Boys. I'm more excited for Upload. So I don't know. I mean, plus, like, I have a long and distinguished history of bashing Boba Fett, so I don't know if I'm prepared for a Boba Fett only series.
I think you are.
I see, like, season 2 did not like convert me to be like, oh yeah, he's the baddest bitch on the block.
Just give it up and become part of Boba's boys. Come on,
Boba's bitches.
Boys with a Z.
Boys
with a Z.
Drinking their PSLs.
Oh man. So yeah, it's.
What?
Bad Batch is next week.
Yeah.
Or next week. Next month.
It's next week. It's next week. It's on Tuesday. It comes out on the 4th.
Oh, okay.
I totally forgot about the Bad Batch coming out. That's like where I'm at.
I did too, honestly.
Until you mentioned it. But real quick, back to Boba Fett. Instead of Tamura Morrison voicing the character, they need to get Breckin Meyer to do it, since he voiced him in all the Robot Chicken sketches.
Oh, jeez.
And it just fits.
Great.
It's like, yeah. So,
Boba.
Ba-boom.
What's that? What does that make? Purple Rain.
Yep. So, I love it. Anyway, so yeah. So, Bad Batch, we'll talk about the Bad Batch, definitely. I mean, it's only going to come out one at a time. So, we've got that. We've got Jupiter's Legacy. I mean, there's stuff coming out that is going to be fun to watch, for sure. Anyway, all right. So let's move on to our main story number 1 today. We are going to review a couple comic books, which has been great that Darryl is letting me do this. So, well, I mean, like, you're not as much into comics as I am, and nothing wrong with that. You're still a total dork, but so we're gonna review Robin number 1, and then we'll talk about Berserker number 2. I have been looking forward to this book for a little while. So around the end of James Tynion's run on Detective, right? Yeah. Robin. So spoilers. Robin, Damian Wayne quits being Robin. He rips the R off. It's because he had an issue with the Titans. He killed someone. They didn't like it. Batman didn't like it, and Damian was just tired of being held back. So he goes out on his own. And so in Detective 33 and 34, there's a backup story that leads into Robin #1. And I love this because there's a bunch of old like Nightwing villains in this episode, in this issue. But the tagline is Robin, the deadliest fighters in the world have met their match. So what's going on in this issue is he learns
Mortal
about
Kombat, basically.
I mean, this is the Mortal Kombat that we really wanted to see last week. I'm not going to lie. So after learning of a deadly League of Lazarus tournament, Damian Wayne has a new mission, winning the tournament and proving he is the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But first, he must find the secret island where it is all going down. This brand new solo Robin series will force Damian Wayne to find his own path away from both sides of his family. New mysteries, new supporting cast, first appearances of new characters, and lots of fights. So yeah, I mean, this issue opens with a great, like, just kind of flashback splashy page, where it's, you know, Damian, like 10-year-old Damian, Bruce is in costume with the tights, in the trunks, like, just looks great. You've got like a little picture of him and John together. It's really cool. Like, I would love to have this page as something hung on the wall in my office.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I told you. I really enjoyed the artwork in this issue.
Yeah. So Gleb, Melnikov, who did the pencils, the inks, the colors, and the cover. Yeah, Gleb killed it with this. I mean, it looks great. I love the character design. I like the next page where it's bats, and then you've just got little like profile panels of Nightwing, of Tim Drake, of Cassie and Steph, and then of Barbara. You know, and then you get so there's something like John Romita Jr.-esque to this. And I know some people really don't like John Romita Jr. I personally dig him most of the time. There's times where I don't think his artwork is appropriate. But I do find like this style of art very good for this book, especially because of all the action that's going on.
Yeah, right. I would say the only thing that, and this is like a small gripe, and I've seen this with other artists before, is how they draw Batman, you know, his face. And it's not that his face is wrong, but I mean, they draw him like he's like a 25-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And again, that's a very, very small thing. But and this is not the first comic that I've seen that it makes me look at and it's like, man, that's a young looking Batman. But I mean, other than that, like you said, I loved how or was his name Gleb, like how he created these scenes of action. They're great.
Yeah.
And just like how he captures Damian's like nonchalance at times during some of these fights.
Well,
it's great.
The very first splash page where it's King Snake versus Damian, and you get like the real first full look of Damian in the new costume, which is, you know, a mix of Robin. It's a little Ra's al Ghul in there. I mean, it's really cool looking. The color scheme is great. The red and the black and the silver. I don't know if you noticed the big spikes at the end of the toe on the boots.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's great. But yeah, you're right. Just the way, like, you know, this 13-year-old is fighting adults, and you know, but the thing I love the most is the way they show how overconfident Damian is, and it makes what happens on the last page like all the more satisfying, and all the more like, holy shit, I need to see what happens in the next issue.
Yeah, and it was big for me because I'm one of those people. I've told you before, I'm not a huge fan of Batman. His biggest strength is his plot armor. A lot of times, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some really great Batman stories that I
Well,
absolutely
hold on.
love.
I just have to say it. How dare you? How
so
dare you?
so
Sorry.
again,
I have,
and
you
again,
know,
I
I
know
have to do it. I can't help
I
myself.
love that. I like that. I'm sorry, that never gets old. So
That it's my.
yeah.
It's probably. I probably send that meme to Darryl, or a GIF of that meme once a week at minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, and I send that to you, and I'll send it to other people
Yeah,
when they do something
but
like that. Yeah, it's one of my favorite memes.
it's the meme that keeps on giving.
Keeps.
But
So for me, yeah, I know we're reading comics, and you have to suspend disbelief, whatever. But my issue, it wasn't my issue, but just I was just laughing reading some of this. Like, okay, this 13-year-old is whipping up on these, grown ass men, and so when we get that last page.
mm-hmm.
That was really a great payoff for someone
Yeah.
like me who's like, and again, I've read Super Sons, I've read some of the other stuff with Damian. I love him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. So, but with, like you said, his arrogance and overconfidence in these fights, and to see him get his comeuppance, I was like, oh man, because I was absolutely not expecting that one bit.
Right.
So to see that, and I didn't know what happened at first because I'm like, oh, she just blocked his attack, and then you see what happens.
Yeah.
You're just
Oh yeah.
like, oh, that happened, and that was the same reaction Damian has.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that was such a great.
Well,
that's
and especially because
like
he telegraphed his move, because it's the same move he used to take out King Snake.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
before we get to the fight at the end, though, like I want to take a sec and talk about him reading through the journal, and Alfred is in his head over his shoulder, like trying to talk sense into him.
Yes.
Like it's just between the use of Alfred in Nightwing and the use of Alfred here, like maybe it was better that they killed him. Like I hate saying that because I didn't agree with it when it happened. It made me mad. It made me sad. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like now he can be this whole other thing. Like you've struck him down and now he's become more powerful than you can even imagine. Being able to just essentially haunt everyone and give them guidance and push them to thinking, following the right path. But yeah, this is great because when Damian gets interrupted, and he says at the end, I'll find the League of the Lazarus tournament. I will win and find out why my mother and father kept it from me. I know that, just as I know you and this guilt trip are not real, Pennyworth. I mean, this is Josh Williamson is a great writer. I like Josh Williamson. I was super happy to find out he was doing this book. I mean, it's stuff like that like shows the complete understanding of who and what Damian Wayne is. Because even at the end of the fight, when the promoter said he was the winner and it said, if you would have killed him, I would have doubled it. And Damian just gave the, the little sound. That was like, again, like, Damian didn't kill him because he couldn't. Damian didn't kill him because it didn't matter.
Right.
So there's an efficiency to him that he doesn't waste time, and he doesn't waste effort that he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but then at the same time, it showed like the kind-heartedness, the Bruce side of him when he gave the family who was looking for some help the winnings of the tournament.
Yeah.
Of course, this was after he got his Lazarus marker, or his invitation to Mortal Kombat, if you will. I mean, they even took a goddamn boat.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's not like they're trying to be original. So it's kind of great in the sense. I looked at it as like them paying homage to the whole Mortal Kombat thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all of this.
So but you go through, they're on the boat. It's got some characters that we've seen that are kind of like C and D list characters, right? He gets to the island and Rose Ravenger shows up and is wanting to know if Batman knows he's there. And then my favorite thing is he comes across Respawn and he says nice copyright infringement. But then you go 2 little panels over and you've got Tad, who was Knight NITE-Wing. You've got Brutal. You've got one of the French twins who are all Nightwing villains. You've got Lady Vic in there on the next page. I mean, there's like, it's some great callbacks to some of the older characters. You've got the guy from the first couple. I cannot remember his name now. From the first couple of issues of Rebirth, Better Than Batman, who was trying to get Dick to do bad things, but yeah, and it looks like Connor Hawke is on there, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I was kind of totally geeking out about this, if you can't tell.
Yeah, I recognize Rose, I recognize Respawn, and a couple other people. I know they mentioned in conversation, I can't remember who beat him, but they mentioned Richard Dragon.
Yeah, they mentioned Bronze Tiger.
But he's like, you cheated. It's like, it's the only way I can beat him.
It's the only way. So, and like you were talking about before, like with Damian, the arrogance to be like, you're here to fight me, so let's just get it over with. And he's like, I'm Robin, son of the Bat. And my mother is the demon. It's the deadliest woman alive. My grandfather is the immortal Ra's al Ghul, demon blood. Just kind of he goes on and so would you rather take me one-on-one or all at once? It's like, dude, you're a kid. Like, like no matter how tough you think you are. And then you get I call dibs from off screen. And then the next page is Flatline, call me Flatline. And she's a cool looking character. I like the design. I don't know if you noticed the little bit of like skull on her face, like not her skull, but like whether it's painted on or tattoo or something.
No, I didn't catch that in the first look.
Yeah. I don't know if you're still looking at it right now, but yeah. And so there's that. And Damian gets in his shot and she's like, ooh, nice job. And, and she keeps talking. She's talking shit. And, he tells her he has no weaknesses. And then, tells her she's going to lose, goes for that knee that he used against King Snake and is shocked when she blocks it.
Yeah. And that's what I thought. I was like, oh, she's going to return fire. And
she did.
But it was a little bit more than I was expecting.
Yeah. So it says, I don't think you know the number one rule of this tournament. On Lazarus Island, we fight to the death. And on the last page, she's standing there holding his heart with a gigantic hole through his body. And it, it's the fight master. She says 1 down, and then it's close up on Damian's eyes, and it's, but I'm dead. And that's it. Like, that's the, the end of the episode or issue. And I mean, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. That was a really, that just throughout how they built him up and from, we know his character from other books and how they built it. They reminded us of that with this one. And then, he does the same thing that got him the KO.
Right.
And then he totally just gets flipped from that.
Yep.
And so
it's great.
And I do have a question. Is this going to be an ongoing series or is this some type of limited series?
No, this is ongoing. This is part of the Infinite, Infinite Frontier. So this is, so they've reduced it from like 50 plus books down to like 30 something. And I think somewhere between 12 and 16 of those books are Bat Family books.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a lot of Batman. Like it's weird. So Anyway, but yeah, all right. So let's say out of hearts ripped out of a teenage superhero, out of 5, what do you give this?
I'd probably give it 3.5.
Okay.
It's a good start. Great art. Had a lot of fun with the artwork. And I like how they, again, I like how the arc of Damian himself in this, from, he gets, all this arrogance to the top, and he gets brought down literally as low as you can be brought down in a fight.
Yeah.
And again, I'm very curious about this Flatline character.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the design as well. So I want to see more of her and where they go with this character. And just curious about this whole Mortal Kombat Island thing.
Yeah. And if you haven't picked up this book, definitely go pick it up, because this is the first appearance of Flatline. So it'll be worth a little something someday. But yeah, I'm going to go 4, just a solid 4 out of 5. I think this is a solid opening salvo. I think, having read the couple backup stories leading up to this, I was ready for it. I like seeing like King Snake show back up, and I like seeing Damian give him what for. So, and then, I dug all the villains from the 2000s Chuck Dixon run on Nightwing showing up.
Little blast from the past.
Yeah, kind of something like that. All right, so let's move on to the one that I am actually excited that you got me to read. Because I was like, oh god, Keanu Reeves wrote a comic book. What else is this guy gonna try and do? He makes kick-ass movies. He makes kick-ass motorcycles. Like, he's got to be bad at something, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. So this is Berserker number 2. Matt Kint and Keanu Reeves. Ron Garney is doing the pencils. Bill Crabtree, who we talked about his art earlier with Invincible, is back on the colors. And Raphael Grandpa did the cover, or is one of the cover artists. There's a whole bunch of different covers. But yeah, I mean, this is, let's see, Raphael Grandpa did one. Raphael Albuquerque did another, and John Paul Leon did the third. So, anyway, this is I like this book. I know last time we talked, it was like a cross between John Wick and who else?
Who do we say?
Was it like John Wick and Vandal Savage, or no? It was like John Wick and Thor. I think is what we said, because he has some powers. So this is his origin story. And I gotta say, like, so last issue, the art was like a little more like polished, like fit and finish, right? And
right.
This time it's much more raw and, kind of messy, like not messy art, but like, you know what I mean? Like kind of dirty, gritty's the word I'm looking for. And to be honest, like, it fits perfect because it's his origin. He's working with Dr. Aja, Aujh. I think that's Aja. Anyway, and she's like helping him recover like some repressed memories, and he remembers like before he was born, sort of a thing. And how his mom came to birth him, which was a very interestingly drawn splash page.
Yeah, I mean,
so if you've seen Game of Thrones, think Red Lady in the cave that Davos takes her to.
Yeah.
When she births the shadow version of Renly Baratheon, or not Renly, Stannis Baratheon. But even like the little picture of like the ovaries and like the lightning bolt shooting up there, that was a little much. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you're serious about this, and it works its way through his birth to him being a kid to them figuring out he's strong to just all this carnage that he caused, like coming into his powers.
Yeah, because the thing is that what we find out is that his family or his parents were, they settled this land that couldn't be defended, and every season they would get raided.
Right.
by other tribes, and they ask for a weapon from the gods, and his mother does this ritual.
She's a witch. Burn the witch.
It reminded me of, just because we were talking about Thor and such, it reminded me of something Zeus would do, because Zeus liked to get it on with the mortal women. And
it's kind of Wonder Woman-y, right? A little bit too. Like the mom is like, "Hey, I need a baby, but I don't want to get busy with my husband." And it's early Mesopotamia. That's the other thing. Like this is like thousands of years ago.
Yes. So, and again, I'm looking at it right now, especially that you were talking about gritty. They really highlight that grittiness when they're doing the history.
Yeah.
Like when we're in the lab with Berserker and Diana.
Yeah.
It's a little cleaner.
It is. Yeah. B.
But I think you're right. It really adds something to it, to the atmosphere of this story that's taken place thousands upon thousands of years ago.
Yep. Yeah.
And one of the things, once he's born, well, first of all, he's in the womb for I believe 2 moons.
Yeah, like 14 days or whatever it is. Like, or no, 60 days. 60 days. They said it exactly. So, but yeah, there's that. He's like, he's a little boy. He like rips a wolf in half, kills a couple other kids, just from playing.
Kills a bear.
Yeah, kills a bear. The last 4 pages, 2, 3. Okay, so yeah, I'll go with all last 4. Are my favorite pages of the book. So it shows like, his mom saying they did, but the weapon is still just a boy, and then it shows him holding this gigantic hammer and a spear. And then in the next panel, diving headlong into, the battle. And then on the next page, there's just a horse exploding as he's jumped through it. And then the carnage that ensues as he's killing these marauders. He punches through one of their heads. Like we talked about the gratuity of the violence in Invincible, right? Like this is gratuitous for sure, but here's the thing. They spent a whole issue showing us that he's this kid who did not necessarily have control of his powers,
right?
Understanding his strength. And now, like, he's been told he has to be careful, he has to be careful, he has to be careful. He lives in a world that's made of cardboard. He has to be careful to never hurt anyone. But now it's time to cut loose and show how powerful he really is. And boy, howdy does he.
And it's funny. Every panel they show it. Almost every panel when he's tearing these dudes apart, he has a 1 or 2 more arrows in his back.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. He's constantly being shot with arrows as he goes through. And then the very last panel is and I remember that being the last time I ever felt happy. Like before, like with all of this, it was the last time, like, because now he's the weapon. Yeah. He's not a boy anymore. He's just a weapon. And I'm super interested to see where this goes. I really dig this. I like the art. I like the story. And God damn it, Keanu, please be bad at something. Like, save some awesomeness for some other people to do. It's just not fair.
He was in Cyberpunk, and his part in Cyberpunk may have caused that game to go downhill. No. Yeah.
Yeah, is that the ripple in the space-time continuum?
Yeah.
The space dork continuum. Anyway, but yeah, no, this is really good. I like it. I want to see more. I do like the idea that Dr. Aja might not be trying to help him. She might be trying to use him.
And I came across, I was thinking that as well. Just I don't. It's kind of subtle, I believe. Like because again, it's subtle enough where we could be overthinking it,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily think so.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because he mentioned somewhere, like that when she's talking about helping him, and you see all these instances of other doctors, you've been for centuries, you've been measuring me, taking samples, analyzing me, poking me, scanning me. But and then she's like, my protocols are protocols. Like seeing the results of him remembering stuff that he hasn't remembered before.
Yeah, and remember, this is all him recovering from being burned alive in the last at the end of issue 1.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, this is just really, really cool. I like it. I like what's happening. You know what else I really like is there's not a lot of words in this book. I mean, there's some pages that have dialogue. Don't get me wrong, but like there's a bunch of pages with very little dialogue. Like very few like word balloons, very few, inner monologue things. The last few pages are pretty much all action. But yeah. All right. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, it's just playing on the fact that comics are visual media. Like, and sometimes you get the huge bubbles of conversation, which, okay, I get that. But sometimes, this is more of a raw and, just more raw story at this point, I should say. I mean, again, I don't know how it's going to morph over time, but right now it's more of a, that raw type of like not unpolished, because that's what he is. He is this raw and unpolished weapon of war, basically.
Word. All right. So out of 5 exploded horses, what do you give BRZRKR number 2?
I give it a 4. Although the artwork is really parallels well with the story that's being told. I don't enjoy it as much as the artwork from, say, Robin, but this does lend itself to the story being told.
Well,
I like that a lot of this isn't not an over explanation with words, with the script, but it's playing on that visual aspect and telling the story both with words but visually as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just so damn curious to see where this is going.
Yeah. Like there's a panel where he's kicking a guy's spine out the back of his body whilst ripping the head and arm off another guy.
Yes.
I mean, it shows a lot. Like he took the hammer and like brought it all the way down through a dude, cutting him in half, like, flawless victory style. And then putting the Frisbee hat back on his head. So I'm going to agree with you and go with a 4. But I think I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. This art, like for an indie book, because, Boom is maybe the 4th at best, probably 5th, like, best-selling comic book publisher right now. And most of that is due to Power Rangers. So like this art is actually like 100% in line with what I would expect from a Boom book.
Yeah.
Right. Like, Like it doesn't have like the Marvel way or the DC way. And I think that's what actually helps it stand out and make it even more visually interesting.
I totally agree with that. And I know you've told me, like when you told me like a couple years ago when I started looking at some of these independents, and I'm so used to a certain type of artwork, getting used to, just a different way of presenting.
Well, it's like when we reviewed that visually. Malachi God of Devils or whatever that indie book was that those guys sent us. That was really good. That I liked. I'm bummed that the next one hasn't come out yet. Like that's where we had that conversation. We actually had that conversation on air. But and then I don't know did you get the paper copy or did you just buy the digital copy?
Digital.
Okay, so there's a preview at the back of this for Basilisk, Cullen Bunn's new book, which it looks interesting, but like it also shows like some pretty cool art that is just the flashbacks, and I'm kind of sad that that's not how the art is going to look throughout the whole book. It's kind of like Dustin Nguyen's art on crack, but in a good way. So just putting that one out there. But yeah, no, this is exciting. 2 good books. I can't believe 2 good books came out in 1 week. To be honest, because some of comics like have been crap. Like, I'm still buying X-Men books, and I don't know why, because I don't enjoy any of them.
You just can't say no.
I like, I did not get Children of the Atom 2. I did buy the first one, but I just, I got Dr. Aphra. I'm not really digging Dr. Aphra lately. I don't like the Star Wars Bounty Hunters, but like, I keep buying those for some unknown godly reason. I'm getting the Star Wars, but I'm like 15 issues behind. The only one I'm current on with Star Wars really is Darth Vader, which is one of the better ones. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, I don't know. There's lots of good books out there. Unfortunately, some of them are 5, 10, 20 years old. So, but yeah. Okay, so both of these books are available on Comixology. If you go to if you go to the show notes for this episode, there's actually a link to take you directly to both books. And if you go ahead and purchase them, like, we don't get anything for it, but we do get like the referral credit, which helps us out with some of the other stuff we do with Comixology. So yeah. Cool. All right, let's close it out. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Whoop whoop. So, interesting about one thing about this show is excellent characters. I'm a huge fan of Sam Wilson / Anthony Mackie. Sebastian Stan as Bucky. Daniel Bruhl as Zemo. And then, we've talked about this over, the reviews of this and talking about this, as far as our boy Wyatt Russell as John Walker had pretty much the best character arc of anyone in this series. And last week, I believe I talked about how the finale was such a disappointment, and it was kind of a microcosm of the series itself. I thought the first couple episodes had some good moments, but were overall disappointing. And then episode 3 that was. I'm trying to remember the order. I know that, like, there were 2 episodes, 4 and 5, which for me were
3 and 4
very good.
3 and
very
4
good.
The 3 and 4.
Or was it 3 and 4?
Yeah.
Okay,
because they were both
3 and 4.
They were both written by what's his name? Too far. Oh no, too far. Sorry. Damn it, not far enough. Derek Kolstad. He wrote episodes 3 and 4. Yeah, 3 and 4. So, but yeah, it's
But, and again, the issue with this show, as a Marvel fan, and not just a Marvel fan, I'm a fan of good stories. And I know a lot of people may think that, there were some of the virtue signaling that I didn't like, or that we didn't like. And that's a part of it, but that actually was an example of how they used it. Showed the unevenness of the storytelling itself, because there are ways that you can put things in a story that, regardless of what the message is, if it's done well, we don't care.
Right.
But when something gets put in and it stands out to the point where, like in my instance, you curse at the screen how stupid it is.
Right. Wait, you were cursing at the screen?
Yeah, I dropped an FU to the screen when Sam and Bucky were stopped by the cops, because it was so out of not character, but it was so just like too on the nose. And you're telling me the people that saved the universe, the literal universe, these cops wouldn't recognize them.
No, you're telling me there's cops patrolling that neighborhood. It's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that's the other. That was the other thing too. Yeah. But that was just an example of the unevenness. And I mean, there are several uneven things. And one of a perfect example of this in the finale was when Bucky finally went to was that guy's name Yuri?
Yeah.
And told him the truth about his son.
Yep.
That should have been, that moment was something that we started in episode 1.
There was no payoff for that.
Yeah, they blew through that thing so fast. Like there was no payoff for that for Bucky for me.
In death, Carly Morgenthau got more closure, not just from dying, but because of Sam's little speech. Got more closure and to steal your word, gravitas, than Bucky got to have from apologizing to that man, because we don't know what happened. Like, and I'm fine with ambiguity, right? Like, I don't need to know if the old guy forgave him. I don't know, because I think you're meant to think that he did because of the way the waitress smiled at Bucky, but at the same time, like, she smiled at him and then disappeared. So it's like, maybe she's just like, yeah, I'm just going to smile because I'm afraid you're going to kill me too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, they didn't they didn't stick the landing. They had spent the second half of the season doing a little bit better. But at the end of the day, there's still so many loose threads for what was supposed to be a limited series.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I'm trying to think of where I saw that. Well, Malcolm Spellman, I read this. It was just an excerpt from an interview he mentioned, and he talked about there was actually a cut storyline, and also how I can't remember if he said this or if the interviewer or whoever wrote the article said this, that it was initially supposed to be 8 episodes and they pared it down to 6. And and you add that to the cut story, because the finale seemed absolutely so rushed.
Yeah.
And there was nothing really satisfying about the finale for me, other than the kick-ass suit. Because I love Sam in that suit, even though his little dome egghead is open to be bashed in.
Well, and when he got bashed into those big poles, or whatever they were,
pipes. On the water.
Yeah, on the water. Yeah. He's dead. He died right there, because even though the helicopter blade hit the shield, it still threw him with significant force that would break a human body.
Yeah, and they had moments. It was a really cool moment, but it was a really unbelievable moment, even in the pretense of the Marvel universe and comic book characters, of Sam holding up the truck.
Yep.
Like, that was, again, it was a cool moment, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, dude, he doesn't have this. Yes, I know he has a suit and he's not using all his strength, but there has to be some stability in there in his body holding that up.
Yeah.
And
maybe there is.
He doesn't, and again, who knows what that, and that's, I guess the caveat in this is that there might be something with the suit I'm not thinking of, or we're not.
It is Wakandan technology. So
yeah.
Of course, they're an ethno state, so
yeah. But yeah, and again, the speech that Sam gave, I know I said this last week.
You loved it
to the senators.
You can't stop raving about it.
It's one of those things where do more with less, and this was one of those things where it seemed like the guy wrote this, Spellman or whoever wrote this episode wrote the speech and didn't want to cut anything out, because there was an overabundance of stuff that Sam and it was so generic that there was nothing inspiring about that. However, and what was inspiring was Sam's talk with Isaiah when he said 3 sentences, and he was like, we built this country and there's no one's going to tell me that I can't fight for it.
Right.
That right there.
That was a good scene.
Like,
that was very
yeah.
pro. It was what you imagine a soldier who served the way Sam did would say.
Mm-hmm. And that said, that in 2 or 3 lines did more for me from an emotional aspect than anything he said in that speech after martyring Carly.
I mean, they had so many like glimpses of like the first version of Sam that we met, right? That that on your left, no, don't say it, as he speeds up and Cap flies by him, right? Like, that was a great introduction to a great character. And like, you know, Falcon, all right, like Falcon's a good character. Falcon is you know, one of the first black characters in comics and, you know, major comics, but like at the same time, like, Falcon is not an A-list character, and like they have an A-list actor playing him for sure. And so that helps. And I think, you know, the way they did Falcon with the wing suit, the way it was, and even the Wakandan wing suit, it takes a character who looks ridiculous on paper and makes it someone you cheer for, and something you like to see, and someone you ultimately want to see show up more in the MCU. Now, Bucky on the inverse. Like, I would be 100% okay if they kind of put Bucky on the shelf for a while. Because this is like WWE, right? They've got, like, currently Rhea Ripley is the Raw Women's Champion. They don't have anything for her. Like, she's a star. She's a badass. But they don't have anything for her. And it's like, why? How can you not? And I don't think Marvel has anything really for Bucky. Because he's not as... Like, having him as being someone just the never-ending sidekick, like, that works if he's a 10-year-old kid. That doesn't work when, you know, he's a badass assassin.
That's actually a point I hadn't thought about before.
And so, like, maybe like a Thunderbolt series is on the way, which, you know, the Winter Soldier was a part of. You know, Bucky's been a part of. But that was like, you know, it's been a rotating cast of characters. Like, the Punisher's been in there. You know, John Walker's been in there. You know, like, there's something. I would love to see them go back to the Winter Soldier, like, spy genre, and have Bucky maybe, like, you know, the government comes to him and says, hey, we know Sharon Carter's the power broker. We need you to infiltrate. You know, that'd be a show I'd like to see, because then we get to see Sebastian Stan on his own. We get being his own, like, or Bucky, being on his own with his own man. We get to see Sharon. We get to find out, like, what's really happening there. And, like, how great is it if Bucky is the one who uncovers the secret invasion with the Skrulls and then is captured and can't tell anybody. And because he's off on a covert mission, nobody's looking for him.
That would actually be
isn't
really
that a
interesting.
great way to, like, reveal that to the fans? And like, because I've always been a fan when we know a little bit more than the characters on screen. Like, we don't know everything.
I like that.
And we get red herrings, which are perfect. You know, and so kind of to look back at WandaVision, there are all those red herrings from Mephisto, but like, those were accidental, right? Because Jack Schaefer came out and said she didn't know who Mephisto was until after they'd finished writing and filming WandaVision. So fair enough. You know, you don't have to be a comic book fan to do all this. You don't have to be, you can be a normie and make really good, you know, comic book stuff, as we saw.
Oh, absolutely. WandaVision.
And like, this isn't horrible.
No.
And again, I think I wish they would have done WandaVision, Bad Batch, Falcon and Winter Soldier, something else, Loki. Like, I think, in that order. Because this was too close to the most creative thing Marvel's ever done.
Yeah, and this was almost a by the numbers.
This was
show.
Not almost. This was exactly by the numbers to this. And it's not bad, right? And, you know, they're trying to deal with complex world situations right now about things like race and borders and, you know, identity. But they did it in such an overly simplistic way that I felt like they were talking down to the entire audience. And
Yeah.
you know, like we both like Tim Pool, and Tim Pool's like running around saying this is an anti-woke show.
It's
Dude,
not.
stop. Just like, he always likes to talk about like we were reviewing Sonic a year ago. Well, no, Tim, now it was 2 years ago. But like maybe reviewing things like Sonic or Falcon and the Winter Soldier aren't your strong suit. So stick to the politics. I know it's weird to say to someone. But I think this has like so many glimpses of being a great show that they make these weirdly political, like not even politically ambiguous, but not like overtly political, like somewhere in between, like statements about things. And then like you have like John Walker, for example, who has this great arc. But here's the thing. He never would have been kicked out of the army for what he did.
What, you mean kill a terrorist?
He killed a terrorist who killed a U.S. military soldier in an active, mission, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and
they even if he gets caught putting the shield through that dude and turning him to mush on the steps of that fountain or whatever it was, like, they're like, no, this was a terrorist. He was tracked down. He had, he was trying to fight back. And then at the same time, like, they did Walker disservice by like, even after he got the super soldier serum. Here's the thing. There's no learning curve for the super soldier serum. You're just stronger.
No.
Right? There's no way any of those flag smashers, even 3-on-1, would have been able to take him on at the same power level, because we got to see why they picked him to be Captain America.
Yeah.
They actually showed us. They didn't just tell us why he was picked, why he was a badass pinnacle of American soldiers. They actually showed that to us in a tiny montage. That was great.
Yeah. And again, going back with the serum, watching him take on Bucky and Sam.
Yeah. Right.
2-on-1. The way he used the shield, everything he did. I mean, that was fantastic.
I mean, he ripped the wings off of Falcon's suit because he knew that was Sam's only weapon against him.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just one of those things. I don't know. Like so many people, like, you see, like, I'm sure you see it on your feeds too, but you see online all these people like, oh, John Walker's the bad guy. He's a racist and an ist and a whatever. It's like, no, he never was. He was a good man. He's a good man who lost his way. He's a good man who found his way back.
Yeah.
And all he wanted to do was serve his country.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that didn't like him. And then I would tell them, I was like, he has the best arc. And I explain what it is. Yeah. And some of them say, well, I kind of see that or not.
But he's not like Captain America. He's not Chris Evans.
Yeah. And again, like, I know, we have our thoughts on Chris Evans, but I mean, I still loved him as Captain America.
He's a great Captain America. Great Captain America.
I understand.
I mean, it proves that he's a good actor, that he could be a good Captain America based on what kind of person he is.
Yeah, 100%. And I understand people saying, like, I don't want this guy as X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, again, I didn't have a lot of knowledge. Well, I've read a little bit of Falcon when he was this Captain America, but not a lot. I was like a couple issues here and there. So I didn't go through his arc in the comics. So I don't know how good it is or whatnot. But a lot of what I'm seeing with, this type of stuff, it's colored with the idea that it's to check a box. And what this, even though I was very disappointed with I was disappointed in this series, it did help me to envision and want Sam Wilson to become Captain America. So in that regard, it absolutely, for me personally, it absolutely hit the mark with that one particular thing. Even though they stumbled along the way with in a lot of areas, it did a good job of making me think, instead of saying, I don't want Sam as Captain America, just keep him as the Falcon. It actually made me change. It actually changed my mind on that. So I will say that was a big hit for me, that the show was able to do that. And again, that was some of the writing, that was just some of the Anthony Mackie. Just, I mean, he's just so charismatic. I mean, there's very few things that I've seen him in that I don't like him in. There's some things that just aren't good that he's been in. But so I understand the whole, I don't want, John Walker is not my Captain America or whatever, but actually step away. And this is what people do. People tend to do this more in watching shows, but they do it in real life too, is they can't get out of their own way of their preconceived notion. So if you think this guy's a bad guy when he first comes on the scene, you're going to have a hard time changing your mind. Because you're almost married to that initial emotional response. So instead of stepping back and saying, hey, maybe this is not as all this cracked up to be. And that's what, to me, John Walker was. And again, it's not like he was a bad guy from the start, because he was the one trying to say, hey, let's work together. Hey, let's work together. Hey, let's work together. And what did he say? When they fought, like when they were fighting, he was like, we could have been a team. Mm-hmm. And I know some part of that was, driving him was, because of the super soldier serum, he got the tick, he had his ticks and everything. But so a lot of people had that emotional response, and they couldn't get past that and see how good of an arc he had and who he was as a character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. So, I don't know. I feel like this is like, when we look back at the history of some of these shows, right? This is going to be one that is a catalog of just missed opportunity.
Yes. And again, it's there were just snippets of excellence in it. Mm-hmm. And again, it sounds like and I know you said it a couple times, it wasn't a bad show. No. It was just, I was definitely disappointed with some of the writing, some of the choices they make. And again, these aren't just the choices of what I call the virtue signaling. These are choices from a narrative perspective as well. Like, even if you ignore those there were choices. There was a sloppiness to some of the arcs, some of the stuff with Sharon, for example. Like the Flag Smashers, they garnered no sympathy from me, and that part of that was they weren't good actors.
No,
and the other part of that was just they were poorly written.
Well, they were stunt people, and then Enfys Nest, right? And then she played the same character that she did in Solo in this one, or Solo. But at the same time, like, they should have surrounded her with better actors who could lift her up a little bit. Because she's not like this powerful presence on screen that you think people would want to follow.
Right.
But at the same time, like, what might have made it better is she plays that character the way she does. And it turns out that, Sharon has been using her as a pawn the whole time, like she's been Sharon, or maybe not even Sharon, just some political group out there has been putting her forth. And maybe it turns out it's the Skrulls and back to Secret Invasion, to try and destabilize things. And you put this child out there with superpowers that's throwing what results essentially in a hissy fit.
Right.
And then that's a way to make that character, like, so Sam's speech at the end is, when you martyr her, it's like, okay, she didn't actually know what she was doing. She wasn't the ringleader of this. But that wasn't what they showed. They showed that she was the one making the choices. She was the one about killing other people. She was the one about tearing down all of society, no matter who it hurt.
Yeah.
She's the one who threatened Sam's family.
Yeah. And all for being treated, the perception of being treated badly for a couple months. Because again, this is 6 months after 3.5 or 4 billion, however many people reappeared.
The half that should have stayed gone.
Yeah.
But no, I think this was a sloppy story point to make 6 months out, right?
Right.
Like 6 months out, there's still utter confusion. Like, people are not, together enough to say, oh wait, this is what's happening. It's, it's still chaos.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I was just going to say, the fact that Far From Home and WandaVision showed everybody so incredibly still with it is, in retrospect, a huge disservice to the idea of half the world's population coming back.
100%.
So,
because you think about some of the stuff that's gone on in our world over the last 20 years and how it changed things.
2 years.
Yeah, no, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. And how things, like, you feel the reverberations of some of these things that, let's be honest, it's like it's kids play compared to the idea of 3.5 billion people just suddenly reappearing after 5 years.
Right. Like, remember the show The Leftovers? 2% of the population left. And that world broke down on all levels. All levels. It broke down for 2% of the population. This was half. Right. Marvel sugarcoated it and made it so flowery and, just I almost wish they hadn't brought anybody back. Like, they made it where it's impossible. But then obviously we wouldn't have Falcon or Bucky or Spidey or Peter Quill or Doctor Strange or, any of these people back. So I don't know. Either that or they should have had the Russos at least doing the writing duties on all of this, because they're the ones who seem to be able to handle these, like, really complex things.
Yeah, and again, you're just mentioning the Russos. Look at how 5 years after all those people disappeared, how the world was in Endgame. And you're telling me it's going to almost get back to normal?
Yeah.
6 months after those people reappear?
There were humpbacks, Darryl, in the Hudson. That weird log from Star Trek 4 wasn't going to come and, mess with our tides.
That's a nice little deep cut.
Right. I get it. Anyway, but no, you're right. And I think, as much as I like to carry Scott, how do you say her last name? Anyway, as much as I carries direction, like, I think the writer's room was the absolute weakest part of this show.
Yes. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
It comes from, like, Malcolm Spellman is best known for Empire. And, like, I've tried to watch Empire, and I get it, I'm not the audience. But there's lots of shows that I like that I'm not the audience for. So, yeah, and I love Terrence Howard and Taji P. Henson. Like, they're both amazing actors. Amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I still to this day am on the Terrence Howard Rhodey Rhodes train. I never bought a ticket for the Don Cheadle, like, connection there. So
yeah,
and this did not, like, Cheadle showing up in the first episode did not make me like it anymore. So
yeah, you even said that in the first episode, and I was thinking maybe they're going to do something more with that.
Nope.
And
I knew they weren't.
I
knew they weren't.
Yeah.
It was a fan service thing. Like,
yeah.
It would have been a fan service. Like, they spent so much time in New York, right? Where was Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Where was Spidey? Where's Doctor Strange? All this stuff is happening. You've got Falcon flying around with the helicopter crashing into buildings. Where's Doctor Strange to help with all this? Where's Spider-Man to help with all this? Where's, they're talking about introducing Daredevil and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Where are all these people? Why do they take and talk about this huge shared universe, and then, just like in WandaVision, they leave these heroes out on an island by themselves?
Yeah. It's funny because at least in Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter even calls out some of that. It's like, hey, why don't you get this person? Why
Yep.
don't you get this person?
Why don't you call
Why don't you
Falcon?
get this person?
He says, why don't you call Falcon? You know, and plus Peter is like, you know, in Europe when all of his stuff is going down. You know, like as far as we know, there's no mutants, so Excalibur is not a thing. There's no Captain Britain running around. Betsy Braddock hasn't become Psylocke yet.
Yeah, and again, it just goes to, there are parts of this series I really enjoyed. I mean, a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
And then it's just overall, it was clunky.
It
was too clunky.
Solid C effort. It's as average as an effort as you can get, and it was done a disservice by following WandaVision within 3 or 4 weeks. You know, Loki's got the Bad Batch in between before Loki comes out. I really think they should be spacing these Marvel shows out by, you know, 6 to 8 weeks before the next one, and have a 6 to 8 episode series in between.
Have a palate cleanser.
Yep. And just like for Star Wars, like you know, like the worst thing Star Wars could do would be to do the Book of Boba Fett and then follow it up with like another season of The Mandalorian or the first season of Ahsoka. You know, too much. I mean, I'm assuming I'm wearing my Welcome to the Rebellion shirt, so I'm assuming Rangers of the New Republic probably isn't going to happen.
Right. So. Yeah, that's a good point, and I wonder how I wonder if my expectations 6 weeks, like if this started this week, say for instance, instead of starting when it did, having that distance between WandaVision, I think it would have been a little bit better. Again, this is not going to change.
We came off WandaVision so high, even though WandaVision didn't really stick the landing super well. I mean, it's like Carrie Scruggs with the broken ankle. Like, they landed it. It was ugly, but they landed it, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, we went from this super creative thing to middling to fair MCU paint by numbers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there were times where I thought Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie were mailing it in, plain and simple. And that it's not because of them as actors, it's because of how bad some of the writing was in this show.
Yeah. So I have to say I'm very curious to see what's up next for all these characters.
Well, they're saying Captain America 4 for Sam. Who knows what is going to be for Bucky? I mean, they're not like a permanent duo.
Yeah. But also, you know, what's going on with our boy
Torres,
John Walker? Well, Torres / Falcon.
Yeah, forget John Walker. Where the hell is Torres? Like, I still think the best tag they could have put on that show is an actual like end-to-end credit scene where Torres puts the wings on and takes off. That would have been amazing.
That would have been really cool.
And that would have been a great setup for Captain America 4. It should have said, see Captain America and the Falcon in Captain America 4.
That would have been awesome. Yeah. That would have been like, take my money.
Yeah. They actually should have called the show The Winter Falcon, not The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
The Winter Falcon.
Yeah. So, anyway. All right. I can't talk anymore about this show.
Yeah. That's where I kind of said, like, I'm just curious to see where they head.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, I think as a series, it's middle of the road Marvel fare. It's somewhere above the Avengers and somewhere below Civil War. What?
Yeah.
I mean, because you've got like Thor, Iron Man, Ant-Man, or Ant-Man 2 in there, Guardians 2. Like, you know, there's some good stuff in there. Like, you know, that it could be better than, that it's worse than. I mean, it's not as bad as Captain Marvel. It's not as bad, like, you know, and I don't hate Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 2 or 3, but like, it's definitely better than those.
Oh, absolutely.
It's definitely better than Captain Marvel. It's definitely better than Black Panther. So,
Yeah.
I can't believe you.
But again, it's something
that was better than Black Panther.
Yeah. No, I would. What I was going to say is, I would watch this before all those movies you just mentioned.
Yeah, I would watch. I would actually beat myself in the head with a hammer before I watch those other movies I just mentioned.
But you would watch Age of Ultron, right?
No, I would literally slit my own throat. I would see if I'd be able to give myself a Colombian necktie before the opening, but before you got that disgusting hero shot of them paused like in a row, like the horrific Justice League Snyder cut one.
I was about to say, so who did it better?
Neither. Neither. It shouldn't be done. It should just be like moratorium on that shot. I tell you,
ultra cheap.
I'll be honest. You know who did it the worst is the Russos with the A-Force one.
I was thinking that just crossed my mind too.
Like I'll take the Snyder cut one above all three. Those other two. Because the Snyder cut one kind of looks like a T-shirt I used to have of the Justice League. So when I was a kid. All right, cool. Well, yeah, I think that's the episode. I was expecting this to be like a 52-minute episode.
It was that damn Oscars talk, man.
Dude, wait, the Oscars were on?
We went off the rails with that one. We talked like 5 whole seconds about it.
It happened. So, allegedly. Hey, if the Oscars happened and nobody watches, did the Oscars happen?
Ooh.
Dude, how pissed off do you have to be an Oscar winner? And it's like, this was the worst viewership of the Oscars ever.
Yeah, it was bad.
People hate the Oscars as much as you hate the people.
Yeah, it wasn't even a double-digit millions.
No.
That should tell them something, but they're not. They're too arrogant to.
Well, I mean, these are people who live their lives being told where to stand and what to say. There's nothing going on there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can start dunking on LeBron James if you want, but I'm good to call it a day.
Nah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out.
Out. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Hit us up at infamouspodcast.com. There's links to everything there. If you liked the way we spoiled Robin #1 and Berserker #2, definitely pick those books up. It is a visual medium, and we are an audio medium, so it's well worth checking out. But yeah, and like I said, we don't get anything for it other than just like the fact that it was referred from our website. But yeah, all right. On that note, we will be back next week. We are going to talk about the show on Amazon known as Invincible. More likely should be called Inconceivable. Season 1, we're just going to review the whole thing as a whole. And then we'll do Jupiter's Legacy the next week, and we'll do the Bad Batch next week.
Oh, yeah.
In news. Lots of news. So, hey, if you guys like us doing the comic book reviews, let me know. Send us an email or just, hit us up on Instagram or Facebook or something. And if there's a comic you want us to review, let us know. Because I don't know about you, Darryl, but I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And that was kind of the original premise of the show when it started 6 years ago. And it's nice getting back to it. I'm not going to lie.
And then it went from, what are comics?
It never, it never got so far away from comics. But there's definitely been periods where comics were not the forefront of the content.
Right. Yeah. It helps that, some of these comics that we've done lately are actually good.
Oh, if you have an independent comic and you want us to review it, hit me up.
Oh, absolutely.
I love doing that. I love even if it's not good, I'm not going to review it because I'm not going to drag an indie creator through anything, right? I'm not. But if it's good, I will sing the praises to it to anyone who will listen. So anyway, I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've written exactly one negative indie comic review in my entire career, and I did not want to write it, and the editor forced me to do it, And I did not have the clout at science fiction yet to say no. So, and yeah. So anyway, all right, cool. On that note, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Dope.
The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati. You can find new episodes every Sunday on Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, our website, or anywhere podcasts are downloaded. This show is hosted by Darryl Jasper and me, Brian Tudor. To find more information about the show, visit us at infamouspodcast.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Infamous Podcast to keep up with the show. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/infamouspodcast. We have some great rewards for our patrons and are looking for help to grow the show to bring you more of the content you want to hear. Music for this podcast is provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. So, whenever you're listening to us, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Later.